That's the melody of one of my favorite songs, one of my favorite Jewish Israeli songs. Tell us about where the words for this prayer actually come from.
Well, it goes... Okay, the words are... Maybe just talk about the words a little bit, but the words are... And I'll just do a literal translation. Okay, so the English is not going to be that great, but I need you to understand, the real meaning.
Right.
And it says, she stood for us. Okay, she stood for us. She stood for our forefathers. Sorry, she stood for our forefathers.
Remembering that everything is masculine or feminine.
Right.
Doesn't mean a woman.
Right.
Yeah, that's important.
Right. So it's a her. Okay, so she stood for our forefathers, and she stood for our forefathers and for us. That not only one wanted to extinguish us, and Hakadosh Baruch Hu and God, the mighty one, the blessed one, he rescues us from their hands. That's basically the idea.
In all generations, there's been...
In all generations.
They're wanting to wipe you out, basically.
Exactly. And God is rescuing us, from their hands.
So who is the he? Who's the she?
Exactly. And the question is, who is the she? Okay, so she stood for us, so who is she? and there's no one answer,
Right.
There's no one answer. This prayer goes really long back, so we don't really know the intention of the person who wrote it. But so one of the answers is, which I like the most. Well, there are two that I like the most, I guess. But one of them says that it's the Torah. Torah is feminine.
Yes.
So Torah and keeping Torah, and that right basically, stood for us, and that was the right thanks to which God was able to rescue us. That we were worthy to be rescued, and the other one is the emunah. And emunah is faith. So it's our faith that basically stood for us. That gave us the right to be rescued. That gave God the motivation, so-called, to rescue us. Thanks to the faith that we've had.
Can I just pick up on? I want to pick up on something there that you say, and I've heard you say this before, that we were considered worthy enough to be rescued, and I always I feel, well, we don't have to be worthy enough in order for God to rescue us, because it's not about us, it's about Him. So if he chooses to rescue me, even if I'm unworthy, that's up to Him, right? So am I able to bring about my rescue by being worthy?
It's a good question.
Because I mean, for me, that's God's grace and God's mercy are so huge that I come before Him with, in all of my humanity, and all of my sinfulness and all of my weakness, and yet He would still choose to rescue me. For me, that's huge to think.
But it's not an automatic thing.
No. But I'm just saying that.
So what is
I'm not sure I can. I can't cause God to rescue me by becoming worthy enough. I don't think there's anything I can do to make myself worthy enough of a holy God.
But we said before, in one of the previous webcasts that, troubles that we have, they have a purpose, right? And we want to be rescued fast. We don't want things to get more messy and more difficult. So you can be rescued very quickly and very easily, and one could be rescued not so quickly, and like he would need to go one or two things before God chooses to rescue him. We want to be the first option.
I see what you're saying. So to put ourselves in the best position to
yes,
really
and also we don't take it for granted. I mean, we always look for the reason thanks to which thanks to which He rescued us. We don't take it for granted, saying you're going to rescue us in any case. So what's the point in working hard for it?
All
what's
right.
the point of putting efforts in believing in you and praying and all that? It's not an obvious thing.
When it comes back to the free will thing you were talking about,
The free will and also everything, our relationship with Him. Nothing is obvious here. Even though we know that He's faithful to His word, and if He said that He's going to take care of us, in an everlasting way, He will. But still, we need to pray for it, and we need to be worthy enough to experience that. It's just that's how it is in Judaism. It's even though we've experienced many attempts to be gone, by other people. We always prayed and we always thanked and we always and we were always worried. By the way, and we were always afraid.
And he always rescues.
And he always rescues. But it's not like we came to, let's say, when Haman wanted to do what he wanted to do, we were like indifferent about it, saying, yeah, Pharaoh tried, he didn't manage. You go ahead, try it yourself.
Right.
Mordechai still, he tore his clothes and like he fasted and they prayed and it's not taken for granted.
Right.
And we don't want to test the covenant in that case, in that sense. But this song that we sang, we only sang the melody. We should sing the words after.
We'll do that.
And so that song is basically almost the opening of the night of the Seder. Okay, it's almost right at the opening. And I think that we need to talk a little bit about, what does it mean to keep Pesach? What sort of a preparation does it take?
Well, I can tell by living here, there's a lot of preparation that goes on. I look at my WhatsApp messages, all the women that like texting and all the things they're doing to clean the house and to be ready, and
it's huge.
It's very huge.
It's huge. It's a huge. It's a sense. First of all, there's a huge sense of renewal before Pesach. So people, they take out old stuff from their house, from their homes, and
it's
it's
time
right
to
after
replace everything,
to
right?
replace everything, to fix everything. All those things that during the winter, you didn't take care of it. It was rainy and you didn't maintain things properly. Before Pesach, full energy. Let's fix, let's maintain, let's rebuild.
It's great, really, isn't it?
I mean, there is no one single corner in our house that we don't touch. Before Pesach, because of this need to clean the house from chametz. Chametz is food which is not kosher for Pesach.
It's interesting. I was talking about fasting earlier, but we have this whole thing. Just in I grew up with spring cleaning. Where on earth did that come from?
It came from that.
It came from
sure.
it. So interesting.
It's so we basically clean the house because the house needs to be kosher for Pesach. Being kosher for Pesach means that absolutely no food, no type of food which is not kosher for Pesach would stay in the house. And food which is not kosher for Pesach is something which involves basically wheat, which was not properly kept. Okay, which came basically, it had contact with liquids and then it rose and that's basically the process. I don't want to be too technical about that, but the fact is that no food we eat during the year is kosher for Pesach. No food. We need to buy everything, everything kosher for Pesach. We need to get rid of everything we have in the house.
Right.
Okay, so we eat a lot. So we need starting from a month before, but we need to get rid of everything we have in the house, food-wise, and replace it with new kosher things that were produced especially for Pesach.
Right.
Everything, you name it, every food item, every little bit. I'm not just exaggerating.
So
everything
just
is
to give people an idea, because if you haven't grown up with this, what would be the kinds of things that you would be getting out of the house right now?
Everything.
But there are certain things you can keep, right?
Vegetables and fruits and eggs, and that's it.
Okay.
And that's it. I mean, seriously, everything, even things which are not, which we don't have a problem with, for Pesach. I mean, let's say, let's say popcorn. Okay, so I'm just giving an example because my kids love that. So if you want popcorn on Pesach, it's okay because it's made out of corn. It's not wheat. You need to get popcorn which was produced in a special form for Pesach, because they keep usually when you have all these things like popcorn, like corn seeds and all that, you can have a little bits of wheat, for example. And these products for Pesach, they are properly kept, not to come in contact with wheat. Now, wheat is not a problem. Flour is not a problem. Our matzah, that's the Pesach bread that we have. It's made out of wheat. Made out of flour, but a very special flour. It's flour that was kept dry with no contact with liquids, with water, nothing.
Wow.
It's a huge thing. It
When
really
did,
is. It's a whole industry.
Because the other name that we have for Passover, at least in English, is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Have you heard that?
Yeah, well, it's from the Bible. It says Chag HaMatzot.
Okay, Chag
The Feast of
HaMatzot.
Matzot.
But like when did the matzot that we used to, those big things that look like crackers, like really big crackers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when did they start first making those? Do you know?
In Egypt.
Like that?
That's why
No,
we
but
do
like that.
Yeah, that's why we do it, because it says so in the verses that their dough, they made dough for the way, because they wanted to take supplies for the way, and their dough they didn't have time, because everything was so rushy. They rushed out of Egypt. They fled, so the dough didn't have enough time to rise.
Right.
And that's why when they baked that dough, it came out like very, very
really
thin crackers. That's what they took. That's what they took for the way.
I guess I always imagined it was like pita bread.
No, pita
Not like
is
pita
so
bread.
not kosher for Pesach.
No, I know it's not now, but I just wondered if that's what it was to be.
No, it really says in the verse, it's like a recipe book, and it says it didn't have time to rise.
Right.
So, and that's what they had in the end, and then God starts talking about Chag HaMatzot, the Feast of Matzot.
Yeah.
And I think this is also it's a lesson. It's a life lesson. Chametz is food which is not kosher for Pesach. So let's take like a living bread, like just bread, regular bread.
Mm-hmm.
Regular bread. The one thing that distinguishes bread and matzah is air. Right? The fact that bread has air. Pride,
Mm-hmm.
And matzah is so modest and humble.
Mm-hmm.
It's so humble.
Mm-hmm.
It's bread of humility.
It's interesting.
And it's an amazing thing. It really is an amazing idea to take.
There was a saying that many people know as that Yeshua said to his disciples. He said, "Beware of the leaven," like that's the yeast, right, of the Pharisees. Because he was always on at the Pharisees, because it was all about keeping the rules and the religion, but there was their hearts were in the wrong place. And so when you're talking about that pride,
and the word for bread, the word for bread is lechem in Hebrew, and it has the same root like milchama, war. Same root. Lechem and milchama, bread and war.
That's interesting.
When bread is all about the air, being rise, pride, ego. Milchama comes from the same place in our hearts, right?
Wow.
Like when we are so full of ourselves and what we want to do, there is no room for others, and then we start fighting.
Right.
But matzah, the word matzah, comes from the same root like satisfaction, mitzui. So humble, so thin, so not requiring everything to itself, but still full of satisfaction. It's I really like that idea, between the regular bread and the matzah.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of preparation going on, with all the cleaning and repairing, and it's huge. Now,
so tell us what you do. Like I
you don't want to know. You want to see the cuts on my hands?
No. No, I remember you telling me about how, like right before Pesach, you go through the house, right? With the children to find.
Yeah. So the night before Pesach, once everything is clean, we actually take 10 pieces of bread, and we wrap them, and the kids basically hide them all throughout the house. And then there is a command that we need to basically check our house for chametz. Chametz is a house. Chametz is food which is not kosher for Pesach.
Yeah.
So even though everything is clean, the night before Pesach, the kids basically they hide these 10 pieces
they hide them.
They hide it.
Yeah.
It needs to be properly wrapped so it doesn't really go lost, and they make a list where they hid it, because we don't want to lose anything, and so there is exactly 10, and then the father basically goes with a candle, and the house is dark.
Oh wow.
And it's after sunset, and we need to go with a candle because candlelight is very good for seeking and looking for something. And we actually go through, the little places, the craft, like everything, and
to find out where they
and we
put
need to
them.
find where it is, and to symbolize, how hard we look for that chametz, which may be in the house physically, but in our hearts, because it really is a soul cleaning. We have friends, for example, and they go every year. They go to a hotel for a whole week. They don't clean their house for Pesach. They're not there. They don't open it. They close the place because they say, no, we can't deal with it. I mean, it's too much work, with the kids and everything. They go to a hotel for a week and they come back and things are normal again. And like we have like 4 weeks of work. We start on Purim, which is exactly a month before Pesach, and we start on Purim like right after Purim for 4 weeks. It's a hard work of 4 weeks.
Wow.
And my wife says, you're crazy. It's like, she said, like, we're cleaning our hearts here. I mean, it's a spiritual thing.
She says you're
physical.
crazy to her friend.
Yeah, no, she says I'm crazy in any case, but I'm saying no. But to our friends, she says, you're crazy because this is cleaning our hearts. It's not just about cleaning the house and everything. But she said there's a spiritual consequence to that. We are more ready, once we do that.
Right.
And our thoughts are concentrated. As we kind of do that, and like our thoughts are concentrated towards one place. We don't just think of, oh man, why do I need to do this?
Right.
Chosen people, yeah, right. But we need to concentrate. We need to concentrate on the we need to have the right intention. So that's about the preparation. But there's also a lot of preparation as far as for learning, how to keep it, because there are a lot of details how to keep Pesach. It's not a simple thing. It's really not. And we have separate dishes for Pesach, like different sets of pots and plates and cutleries, and everything is different. Nothing, like the whole kitchen is replaced.
Really?
Like the whole thing, like everything. You don't use anything from during the year. So
even though you might have cleaned them all.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. You need to have a separate, because you need to have everything separate, everything. So we have like two cupboards with Pesach stuff, and we never open them during the year. And the kids know, this is Pesach stuff. We have, in Israel, like people who have like really big houses, they have 2 kitchens. They have a separate kitchen for Pesach, which they lock during the year. Nobody goes in. And they only use it 1 week a year. It's a huge thing. It really is huge. It's one of the most central things it's the most central thing in our religion. But then we also need to talk about how do we celebrate it? How do we celebrate Pesach? Because back in the days, the whole thing about celebrating Pesach was basically going to the chosen place, Jerusalem, the tabernacle, the temple, whatever, and bring a sacrifice. And eat it. And eat it, overnight, and do it just like they did it in Egypt. Today we don't have that. And so how do we celebrate Pesach? And the truth is that they actually didn't know how to celebrate Pesach after the destruction of Second Temple, because the first Pesach, after the destruction of Second Temple, there was no altar, there was no high priest, there was no nothing, and they were so confused. How are we going to do this? So then a group of rabbis basically sat down to discuss how are we going to keep Pesach from now on. And then they organized what we call the Haggadah. Haggadah is the Seder of Pesach. It's basically the book. Haggadah is a book. And it's basically a book that we go through the entire book during Pesach. So it has many sections. Some of the sections are basically rituals that we do. Some of them are texts that we learn around the table. We have a meal going on. We have praises to God. We have blessings. We have songs. It's a whole thing. We need to go through everything, like from beginning till end. But the main thing, this is what I would like to end up with. The main thing about the Haggadah is the children.
Yes.
The children are the most important thing during the night of the Seder. Raising the next generation, knowing the foundations, knowing the spiritual foundations of their people, their history, their being is not a regular being, and the children are the most important. So we are committed to do it as theatrical as possible. Bring props and stuff and do plays and just give them the story, because they need to understand the story. They have to know the story. So they are the most important thing. And you did one Seder with us. So the kids are sat around the table.
Great.
And
questions.
And they need and we need to trigger them to ask questions. So we do things differently than how we would do it the rest of the year, in order for them to ask questions. So why do you do that? Why do we do it like that? Why do we do it like that? Why do we do it like that? Just so to trigger them to ask these questions, so that we can have a conversation. And it's a huge lesson also in education, in raising the next generation, how to talk to them. And they are really the most important thing, when they are sat around the table. That's why today for me it's a bit hard to go and be hosted, let's say, on the night of the Seder, in anywhere, because I want to have my my kids around the table, and to be able to talk to them in a way that we can't normally have that type of conversation in the setting in which we are not at home or something like that. So it's very important that the nuclear family is together on Pesach, because the kids are the most important thing.
Yeah, I loved being around that, and just getting that feeling of, it was almost like watching you as a family, and feeling this sense of coming up out of Egypt. It was awesome. I loved that. Okay, so we'll bring this one to a close, and we'll see you in the next podcast.